Security footage from a Yucaipa home captured a masked man placing a letter near the front door, then blowing a kiss to the camera before walking away. It wasn't the only home visited. Several neighbors say they received the same mysterious delivery Monday night.
They were in Christmas cards, but all of the stuff that they were putting in it were stuff that you've been hearing from Antifa.
Inside each card, messages that neighbors describe as sinister, vulgar, and at times threatening, each one different and chilling in its own way.
The one over there said a date, and they said, "You've been warned," like they were warning that something's going to happen on a specific date.
Just one street over, another resident found a letter addressed not to him, but to Santa.
Picked it up, opened it, and it said, "Dear Santa, I want the head of a Nazi under my tree for Christmas." And I was just like, that's a little weird.
Well, it is getting more and more terrifying to be a Trump supporter each and every day with the rise of this violence on the left. As you just saw in that ABC7 news clip where people were literally being terrorized in their own homes for being Trump supporters. That could be the only thing I assess from that, especially when the letters are read, "All Nazis must die, Trump will burn in hell." And they're going to the doorsteps, masking themselves so they can't be detected on who they are. This is chilling. I don't know about you, but the future that we're headed into is one that I think, unfortunately, is getting more volatile. And God forbid that a Democrat gets in charge. I don't see this settling down at all. In fact, I fear that it could be very worse. I've got a lot to share with you in today's broadcast. But on top of it, with this rise in radical violence, I'm going to show you how the Hollywood elite and those at the very top 1%, they're literally moving into fortresses that come complete with armed guards. Things are getting crazy. But before I dive into any of that, I want to remind you, please make sure you're still subscribed to the channel here. Hit that sub button, go all the way up, and make sure that bell is checked because YouTube has been unsubscribing people. And as you saw a moment ago, get to restrictedrepublic.com right now for Black Friday. I'm going to do a special that I have not done in a very long time. With the coupon code Black Friday, you can get it for $39 per year. It's only available on the annual, but use that coupon code to get it for $39 per year. That's like $3 and like 25-ish cents per month. But it's only available on that yearly plan. But go to Restricted Republic right now, sign up. We've got exclusive content. Justice Night is on there. I am on there. And we've got at least 5 videos per week that we're not posting anywhere else on that platform. And Justice Night just put out a massive exclusive on there that you're going to want to see. And the only way to watch it is go to restrictedrepublic.com. So use that special code and get that annual discount. But with that, let's start first with this article. You know, after you saw what you saw with those videos, I want to show you this as well, because this is rather important. Wired.com. And Wired, by the way, is a left-leaning news site. Very far left, in my opinion. But the hard left shooters leading a gun culture revolution. And in this article, they basically, say, there is more and more people on the left that are joining these gun organizations. And here's what it says in the article. After the president was reelected, speaking of Donald Trump, left-leaning and queer-focused firearm organizations and classes like the Liberal Gun Club and the Pink Pistols told me they were seeing major spikes in interest and attendance. Major spikes. And by the way, here's a picture that they share. And I wanted to show you this because right there on that patch, it says something rather chilling. It says, "Death to all who stand in the way of freedom for our queer people." That doesn't sound very peaceful to me. It sounds very violent to me. And as you guys know, I am against violence through and through. But the bottom line is, if these organizations are seeing an uptick, that means things in general are getting more and more tense and more volatile. We've seen this with politics. We've seen the left make radical calls. And by the way, they're calling MAGA supporters Nazis and racist and fascist. And by the way, the only reason you would call somebody something like a fascist and a Nazi isn't because they're actually that. In my opinion, it means that they're going to call you that so stuff can happen to you. if you get my drift. So you can be terrorized, and God forbid some idiot radical on the left comes with a gun and says, oh, I'm going to go start shooting Nazis and fascists. And unfortunately, this is the kind of radical environment I believe we are headed more and more into. And it's terrifying. It's downright chilling. Maybe you disagree with me on that, but I really hope we're not. But the truth of the matter is, think about what's happening right now to ICE. They have now had, it was 1,000% increase, but now we're at a 3,000% increase of violence against ICE. Why? Because ICE has now been labeled by the radical far left, and even not even the radical left. People like Jasmine Crockett have been out there saying that, ICE is kidnapping people, and many of our leaders. I played whole clips of these things. And a kidnapping, by the way, is fairly extreme, and that's a crime. And the only reason you would call a kidnapper is, well, if you expect someone to go after them. So now you have grants to be mean to these people, to terrorize these people. God forbid anything worse than that. And that is why we now see an increase 3,000-fold in attacks against ICE. Their lives and their families are at stake. In fact, here's another one I'm going to show you here. And this is just published by FBI Portland, right? John Paul Coop, 45-year-old male, made his initial appearance today after allegedly making violent threats at Immigration and Custom Enforcement building in South Portland. Coop has been charged by criminal complaint with threats made against federal law enforcement. And basically, according to the document, he was yelling insults at law enforcement and as they were approaching the crowd, and threatened to kill law enforcement officers, sexually assault their wives, and even harm their children. This is one example of multiple out there right now. And left, regardless of this 3,000% uptick, continue to paint ICE as kidnappers, as lawbreakers, as not abiding and following the law. And then, of course, we had the Democrats come out and tell our military, right? Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotskin, and others, they came out and said, military should disobey illegal orders. Well, no, duh. They're not supposed to obey illegal orders. But again, I'm just going to repeat this. I know I said it before, but they said that. But before they came out and said that, they were calling ICE and everything ICE was doing illegal. Because they're kidnapping. Well, that's an illegal crime, but that wasn't what ICE was doing. And they're arresting legal citizens. No, they aren't. There's big debate that can happen, but either way, these are the kinds of things we're faced with. And here, take a look at this. This is on The Independent. Political violence on the rise. Left-wing attacks outnumber those from the right for the first time in decades. Now, I'm going to hit pause on this because I have a beef with this title a little bit. Number one, the reason that they say the right has been high forever, it's because when you look at the statistics, when you go right and left, they throw everything under the sun on the right. Everything. Literally lump it in. So it's literally impossible for the left to outnumber the right ever. However, things are so extreme on the left right now that they're outnumbering those on the right. So in other words, it's far, far extreme and more radical than it ever has been because we have had jaded numbers between the right and the left forever, right? But anyway, here's what they say. So imagine worst case, or not worst case, but things are getting worse. And here it is. News research from the Center for Strategic and International Studies warns that a stark imbalance has emerged in the last decade with domestic terror incidents perpetrated by those linked to the left, now on course to exceed any level seen in the previous 30 years. Meanwhile, right-wing violence has sharply declined. It goes on. The research examined about 750 domestic terror incidents in the U.S. between 1994 and 2025. It gives the following definition for terrorism: the deliberate use or threat of premeditated violence by non-state actors with the intent to achieve political goals by creating a broad psychological impact. So lots and lots of information, but that is how the poll has been taken. But regardless, how do you know things are getting really intense in society? Well, you look at what the elite are doing. And right now we've got Mark Zuckerberg building a bunker in Hawaii. We've got elitists building bunkers all around the world, quite frankly. And we also have Hollywood moving into, not moving to places where there are beaches and beautiful scenery, but rather they're getting the hell out of society and locking down in fortresses. Here's what I mean. And this is on News and Insights, Realtor.com. And here it is. Inside Secret Florida Enclave, luring celebrities and billionaires with unrivaled privacy, military guards, and incredible mansions. So what is is it about this secretive sanctuary that's helped to reel in such high-profile property owners? Well, on paper, Stone Creek Ranch, a prestigious enclave made up of less than 40 luxury homes, is a world away from Miami, Manalplan, and Palm Beach. It offers no beaches, no celebrity-approved nightlife, and no glitzy designer shopping, yet it offers one very particular luxury that is proving to be quite the draw among the 1%. Total and absolute privacy that is safeguarded by a team of armed professionals who watch over the community 24/7, a majority of whom come from prestigious jobs in law enforcement or the military. Prospective residents' entry into the community is policed just as carefully. Any home buyer seeking to purchase just one of the private homes in the residence within Stone Creek are required to go through rigorous criminal background checks before they can even attempt to secure their home. This is intense, folks. And this was just written November 21st, 2025. But hey, that's not the only one. Let's go over here. Here's another one. And how Indian Creek Village became a fortress for the ultra wealthy, home to 50 million mansions and 24/7 surveillance. This is also another one that's kind of booming. You can't just stroll into Indian Creek, not a chance. The island is locked down with a high-tech security system that's straight out of a spy movie. The wealthier you become, the more you want perfect security. Seetha Lowe, director of the Public Space Research Group at CUNY, told Business Insider recently. And Indian Creek delivers. An Israeli designed radar system rings the island. It's a system that can detect anyone approaching half a mile away. Cameras are everywhere, hidden in the hedges, mounted on poles, and linked to a command center that monitors every move. Very, very interesting. And this is on benzinga.com there. So what is going on? Well, I think we know exactly what is going on in society, right? Things are getting intense. The left is getting more radical. The radical from our leaders is getting more radical. As I've stated before, they are allowing in, what is it, Jay Jones, who was fantasizing about killing his Republican opponent and wishing her children dead. There's things like that where we've got these in. He should have never have been voted in, period. With things like that being said, but now these are widely acceptable. You tell me where we're headed in the near future. And I don't know. I guess it depends on who gets in charge and stays in charge. Obviously, I'm against violence of every kind. And it's just getting intense, folks. Love to hear your thoughts, comments, and concerns on that. And don't forget to join us on restrictedrepublic.com. And those of you who are there, love you all. And I love everyone out there. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.